Morning, everyone. How's it going?
Good morning.
We are just going to go ahead and give you guys a couple of minutes to find the video and let everyone settle in. We'll probably get started in a minute or two here. As you join the session, if you would like, go ahead and introduce yourself in the comment box and tell us where you are and who you are, and if you are a license holder or consumer or educator, so that we kind of know who we're talking to. We always like to see who we're chatting with in the morning. So give us just a couple of minutes and we'll get started, okay? I'm going to do a link. Oh, okay. Hi, Ray.
Morning, Carol.
Oh, Carol. Okay, and then we've got, guys, as we're waiting for people to find us and join the session, I'm going to share a couple of key links that Jen is going to be talking about later on, just for your reference. So just go ahead and keep in mind, as she's talking about things, we've shared them. And if you have questions about those pages or the article or anything like that, keep posting those questions in the chat box and we'll make sure to get to you. Let's see, we've got, Mickey Lackey of Key Skills, and we've got a realtor from Corpus Christi. Hey, Ray, that's right, you were here earlier. And Tomball. Thank you. And Gayla, good morning. Cypress, all right. We've got lots of people from all over the state here this morning already. So let's give it just another minute or two, guys, and then we'll get started. Okay. Austin.
How are we doing?
We've got 55 people with us this morning. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Anderson. I am the Public Affairs and Communications Manager for the Texas Real Estate Commission. And I'm joined this morning by our very own Jen Wheeler, who is the Director of Education and Examination Services. Sorry, I am terrible at pronouncing that. We are very lucky to have her this morning. And I first want to thank you all for joining us this morning. As we know, you all are very busy and taking time out to learn more about what's going on here at the agency. We appreciate you taking the time to do that. And I want to thank Jen for taking time out of her morning to come and join us this morning on Facebook. Yeah, this is going to be great. So just a few housekeeping items before Jen gets started. If you have a question about something she's talking about, go ahead and post that in the comment section. I'm moderating that comment section, so I'll make sure that your question is answered. And if you have any thoughts or ideas or insights, please keep those comments going. We mean this to be an interactive session, not just us talking to you or at you. So with that, I'm going to let Jen get started.
Okay. Thanks, Christine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to address a couple of things before we start taking your questions. These changes to instructor licensing have obviously been significant, and I wanted to start by giving you a little bit of the why, the what, and the how. So why? First, why did this happen? Sunset. A sunset review occurs every 12 years for most state regulatory agencies. The objective of sunset is to determine whether or not the agency and its functions are still relevant and to identify areas that need improvement. One of the key directives that came out of the sunset review was to eliminate licensing our instructors. So that's the why.
So sunset basically said in their
No
review
more.
process, no more.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So then we had to figure out how to make this happen. So what we did, and that's the what. So the what is, in order to implement the Sunset Directive, TREC drafted and adopted revised rules regarding instructors that became effective on September 1st of this year. The new rules generally maintain the same standards for instructor qualifications, but shift the responsibility of screening instructors to our education providers. Okay. So that's the what, and now the how. So how does this happen?
So basically, we're no longer the ones looking to make sure that an instructor is qualified. The provider is doing that.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And side note, Commissioner Leonard just joined us.
Oh, great.
So hi, Commissioner Leonard.
Good
nice
morning.
to see you. Go ahead.
All right. So the how, what does that mean? What does that mean for our education providers now? Many of you have questions about how you can ensure an instructor is qualified, and I understand that. In response, we want to offer you a few tools, and we've added those to our website. And Christine, I believe, is going to.
I've already shared
shared a couple of the links. So what these tools are, they include an explanation of the criteria for instructors, a set of guidelines that can be used to screen instructors of specific qualifying courses. And those guidelines are the guidelines that we have used, that TREC staff has used historically to screen or qualify instructors of pre-licensing courses. We've also added a list of previously approved instructors, along with all of the courses or subject matter that they were previously approved to teach. Mm-hmm. And so we want to make those things available to you because we understand that this is a big transition. And so any way that we can help, we want to make that happen. Just a couple other things before I open this up. Instructors of elective CE courses, providers, you want to be sure that the instructor is competent and an effective instructor, and that he or she has the necessary subject matter expertise to teach the course topic. This isn't a change. This has always been true. One of the things that I know I get a lot of questions about are the instructor qualifications for the non-elective courses. Those are your Legal Update 1 and 2 and broker responsibility courses. Right. So as has long been the case, the requirements to teach non-elective courses are unique, and this is important to understand. Instructors of non-elective CE courses must first satisfy the basic requirements to teach qualifying courses. Okay, what does that mean? Instructors must have a college degree in real estate and 3 years of teaching or training experience, or 5 years of active experience as a license holder and 3 years of teaching and training experience, keeping in mind that for the broker responsibility course and the real estate brokerage course, that active experience needs to be as an active broker. Or, this is your third or, the equivalent of one of the two that I just described after consideration of the instructor's professional experience, research, authorship, or other significant endeavors in real estate. So instructors, before you register to take the Train the Trainer courses for Legal Update 1 and 2 or broker responsibility, be sure you satisfy at least one of the qualifications mentioned above. Additionally, we have added this information to the Texas A&M Real Estate Center website where you register to take those courses. So be sure to read that before you sign up. And that's really just kind of a brief summary that I wanted to provide to everybody. And now I'd like to just open it up to your questions, or Christine.
Sure. So it looks like somebody was saying, can you repeat the second? I think that's the qualification a list that you just went through.
Was that the active experience?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, sure. So one option is 5 years of active experience as a license holder here in Texas and 3 years of teaching or training experience. the caveat in that is that if you're talking specifically about the broker responsibility course or teaching the pre-licensing real estate brokerage course, that active experience as a license holder needs to be as a broker, not a sales agent.
Okay.
Does that clarify?
If you want to let us know, yep. Okay, yes, she says yes, yes, please. Okay,
great.
So, so guys, as we kind of go over these changes, go ahead and post your questions. I'm sure that they are. This is for CE instructors. Kristen, are you speaking about the qualifications that Jen was just going over? If you guys can just be a little bit more specific in your questions, it'll help us facilitate your answers. So my big question is this. So we have instructors now that are going to be monitored or determined whether or not they're qualified to teach based on the provider. So how does a license holder, an average license holder, when they take a course, do they still provide feedback via the evaluation form like they used to?
Absolutely.
And how is that used?
Absolutely. So all of our providers are required to make available the course and instructor evaluation form to anybody who takes a class, whether that's in the classroom or through distance education. So definitely that feedback will be important, and especially important to the education providers. As you're monitoring your instructors, you want to really pay attention to that feedback so that you know who's doing well. And I think it'll give you some feedback too on who's really competent to teach certain topics. And it's a great tool. It's a great tool. And
that's still on our website like it always was.
It's still on our website. Yep. It's available there. Live link.
And so is it still a requirement to provide that course evaluation or instructor evaluation form to the students?
It is. It's a requirement to provide it to all students. And anybody who completes the evaluation, it's a requirement for the provider to maintain those course evaluation forms for 4 years.
Okay. So the only real change as far as a license holder taking a course is they probably might not even notice that this change has happened. It's really more affecting our providers and how they're hiring instructors, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah, you shouldn't see any impact on license holders really that are signing up for your courses. This is really just a restructuring of how you make sure that your instructors are qualified to teach the courses that you hire them to teach.
Right. So things like, Gayla asked, for example, Truck still approves content for CE courses, correct? Yes. So the approval process for courses is still the same.
Unchanged.
Correct? Right. Just clarifying okay, sorry about that, Kristen. Then it says, Bill, as a provider, how do we get an instructor number for a new instructor so we can update the completion roster online?
Okay. So that's a good question, Bill. You're talking about I believe you're talking about the CE posting system.
Yeah.
And the instructor license number component has been removed. So we won't be providing new license numbers for any instructors, and we've removed that component because it's no longer applicable to reporting course credit.
So they fill out that the CE posting system still works the same. They just don't have that extra field there to put in the license number for the instructor.
That's right.
So Bill, I hope that answers your question. Let me know if it doesn't. There's a new roster form that doesn't include an instructor number. Right. She was replying to Bill for us.
Right.
Thanks, guys. You're on top of it.
Awesome.
Having the previously licensed instructor list on our website appears to put new instructors at a huge disadvantage. I think that's more a comment than a question. But
okay. But I'm curious about what that might mean.
I would assume that maybe it means, so you have a list of previously licensed instructors, people that look like they are certified by us to be like an instructor. Okay. And then somebody comes in and says, I want to be an instructor, but I don't get a license number. We're still showing this whole other group of people as license holders. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So the idea behind that was really just to provide a repository of those who had already been licensed, and really as a tool for our education providers so that, you know, we have people that still have
they still have licenses.
They still have licenses.
Yeah.
if anybody submitted an application up through August
31st,
we processed that application and issued a 2-year approval term. So these are still valid license holders. They just won't renew the license.
Right.
And we tried to communicate that to make sure that everybody was aware that, if you wanted to be included in this repository, go ahead and submit your renewal app or submit an application. But it's definitely intended to be a tool and not intended to be preferential. It really was as a resource to our education providers.
Right.
I need to know if this person tells me he used to be approved or she used to be approved to teach these courses. Well, if you want to know, you can look on our website.
So can we, as the licenses expire, will we be updating those lists as they go throughout the next 2 years to show so those people currently had an active license, or will that list just stay the same for a certain amount of time?
It's static.
Okay.
It'll stay the same for a certain amount of time. We'll probably pull it down in maybe a year. But just as a reminder, as an education provider, regardless of whether or not you see a name on a list, you're still going to want to,
check references,
screen your instructors. One of the things that we often requested from instructors, especially those of qualifying courses, pre-licensing courses, is to get a resume. Get a resume and get some professional references, list of teaching training experience, and we found that to be really helpful. And again, I'll just kind of refer you to the guidelines that we have used internally that we're now making available to all of you that are specific to each of the qualifying courses. For example, somebody who has been a license holder for X number of years and wants to teach real estate finance, you might want to get a little more information about what their
Right.
background is to teach something as specific as finance. Same goes for something like real estate investment.
Yeah.
So that's some feedback.
Mickey, if that is not answering or commenting back to your comment, let me know. But
yes, please.
So what I'm taking away from there is that list is just a reference list. It's not meant to be a disadvantage in any way. And at some point we will be removing that. It was more kind of like a training wheels type of approach to this, instead of just taking out all of that information off our website and not making it available to anyone.
And that's a good way to put that.
Yeah.
It's a transition.
Yeah, I think it was intended to help people still kind of use it as a source if they needed it, but we will be weaning people off of that information. soon.
Commissioner Wilkinson is here.
Yeah,
too.
hi, Commissioner.
Good morning.
So Cam Nutt says, I've been teaching broker responsibility since an inception, and I'm not a broker and hold an active salesperson's license. I am an association employee who teaches for our association provider. I can no longer teach broker responsibility. I think they're making the comment that they can't teach broker responsibility anymore. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Well, the requirement, that specific requirement didn't change. We require anybody who teaches broker responsibility. Now, there may have been an exception. So remember when I mentioned that third option for the non-elective courses, which is the equivalent of one of the above, which is either the holding the license, the active broker's license, or college degree in real estate, in addition to the teaching and training experience. So the third is this is the subjective one, and this may be where you fall. The equivalent of one of the above after consideration of the instructor's professional experience, research, authorship, or other significant endeavors in real estate.
So that may have been because that person, Cam, in this instance, was an association employee and has significant experience in the field of that topic.
Right.
We were able to qualify them at the time. So yes. Would Cam still be able to do that in the future? Or
yes.
So that exception then still, Cam, sounds like it's still in place. You still will be able to teach. You just, again, when you're talking to a provider for approval to teach that course, that provider needs to make the determination. And in your case, it sounds like it's your association that's an approved provider. So you would go through your association to get that exception for you to be an instructor of that course. So hopefully that helps you out. And then it says that Nicole says, so we no longer need to put the existing instructor number on the CE class advertising anymore, even though it doesn't officially expire until 2020, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Yes. So yeah, you don't need to add that as an advertising piece.
That's a good point. Thank you, Nicole, for pointing that out. But yes, you're right. The advertising no longer needs to include an instructor license number.
Great. That was easy. Kristen says, are those who were licensed to teach CE, legal, ethics, broker responsibility, but have since expired on that list? So they were previously approved as instructors for those courses, and now they've expired. Are they on that list?
No. Well, I'll tell you the courses themselves. So I told you that we have a list of instructors and the courses that they were approved to teach. So that would include like principles of real estate finance, promulgated contract forms, and then whether or not they were approved to teach CE elective courses. Since the non-elective courses have a separate set of requirements, those instructors or those courses aren't listed with the list of instructors.
Okay.
Because each time you go to the trainer, you need to make sure that you are qualified, based on the pre-licensing courses, meaning you have to have one of the three that we talked about: the college degree in real estate and 3 years of teaching and training, 5 years of experience and 3 years of teaching and training, or the equivalent. And we're going to look at that each time. And I hope that answers the question.
All right, Kristen, let me know if that doesn't help. And then it says, Kathy says, she was answering somebody else. Can an instructor be under more than one provider?
Yes, I think that's a great question, Joseph. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, and that has always been the case. An instructor can teach for as many providers as he or she wants to.
Yeah, so that's Kathy says, hello, ladies. Thanks so much for taking the time to provide this platform and detailed explanations. Well, thanks. I like the compliment.
Kathy.
I appreciate that. And then Nicole says, teach elective courses in Austin area and specializing in social media. Oh, she's just introducing herself. Hi, Nicole. Thank you for saying hi. So Mickey says, how are you going to keep track of which instructors have been to the instructor classes for the non-electives? Without a license number, will a certificate be issued?
That's also a great question. Thank you, Mickey. So as you know, you register through, for the non-elective courses, you register through the Texas A&M, the Real Estate Center website. And we have always had a process by which the registrants, we communicate information back and forth with the Real Estate Center. So those who register and complete the course after each offering, essentially a roster is sent to the Real Estate Commission, to us, and we're able to cross-reference those individuals, and we will be issuing, it's not a license, but it is an approval letter to teach those courses: legal update 1 and 2 and broker responsibility.
So they register for that training the same way they always have.
The same way you always have, and the information is conveyed to us in the same way that it always has been from the Real Estate Center.
They'll just be getting a letter via email.
That's correct.
Okay. Yes. And so that reminds me to say a little plug. Make sure that your email address is always accurate with us when we're doing with your information, and the email address that you're giving to the Real Estate Center is also accurate. So that way then we're communicating with you. It's really important that is done properly. So Kristen asked, so the list is only for those currently licensed as a CE instructor for TREC required courses, not those who have expired prior to this change.
That's correct.
Yes. If I get a course approved to teach for one provider, can I use the same for another one?
So that's a good question too. Thank you. So it's not an instructor who submits a course application to us. It's the education provider.
Okay.
So you may be the author. And if you take a look at the CE course application, you'll see where if the applicant, meaning the education provider, is not the author, then written permission for the applicant to offer that course is required.
Okay.
So that's where you would take ownership of the course. If you wanted to get that course approved through one provider and then wanted another provider to be able to offer that course, and you have an agreement with that other provider, then you would submit the CE course application supplement form. It's essentially a secondary provider, and that provider offers the course in the same manner that was approved for the original provider.
So by you're meaning the instructor would submit that supplement form, or the provider?
The provider would.
The secondary provider.
The secondary provider.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear. You used you, and I wanted to make
You're
sure.
You're right. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's sounding like, yes, you can have the course approved by multiple providers.
Yes.
But each provider will need to submit that request for approval.
That's right.
And once the course is approved one time, then you just submit that supplement form for each time.
Yes.
I'm learning so much, guys. Okay.
Thank you.
So it says, if I get, will you still be requiring a train the trainer for qualifying course instructors?
Okay, I think I know where you're going with that question, and I think this is a little bit different. I think, Laura, you're asking if we are going to continue to require the 8-hour adult education instructor training, and if that's the question, the answer is no. That was a recommendation that came from the ESAT committee to remove that requirement, and was also adopted and effective September 1 of this year.
Okay, so no longer requiring that 8-hour.
Right. And that's specifically the 8-hour adult education certification training to teach pre-licensing courses.
Okay. Clarification. Is there a 2-year trainer course that's still a requirement for instructors? So the once every 2-year train the trainer, I think, is that still required?
I think it's important. Desiree, I'm not sure. Are you asking about the CE non-elective courses, Legal Update 1 and 2 and Broker Responsibility, or are you speaking to pre-licensing courses?
So if you can just clarify for us, Desiree, which one you're talking about, we just want to make sure that we're answering your question correctly.
Absolutely.
And then I'm going to move on just to keep things moving. Don't forget, TRITA offers the CREI designation for instructors that want to differentiate themselves in this field.
That's true.
Thanks for the comment. And then let's see, it says, is the instructor class at Texas A&M for Legal 1 and 2 and Broker Responsibility a one-time requirement?
Oh, okay. Okay, no, those are required. So we rewrite those courses every 2 years, alternating odd and even. And every time a new version is issued, then instructors are required to go to the train the trainer for the new edition.
Right.
So we are wrapping up doing the Legal Update 1 and 2 that will be effective or available for January 1, 2020 to 2021. So right now, the Real Estate Center is already registering people to come take the train the trainer for the Legal Update 1 and 2 this fall.
Okay. So I think the short answer is no, it's not a one-time requirement.
Correct.
They need to take it every time there's a new question or a new course offered. Okay. Yes. So Monty, I hope that helps you. And then Desiree was saying she wanted to know about non-elective when her question before, which was clarification: is the 2-year trainer course still a requirement for instructors?
Okay.
For non-elective?
So that the answer is yes.
So Desiree, I hope that helps. And then so will TREC still certify SAE or pre-licensing instructors?
Also a good question. No, the elimination of instructor licenses was across the board. But again, for that reason, we wanted to provide our education providers with as many resources as possible, which is why we published those guidelines that we used, and then the general parameters for pre-licensing.
Yeah, and I think it's important to show that our education staff has worked really hard to update the website with lots of great tools. So, for example, they not only published this article this last week or 2 weeks ago, but they actually had published like 3 or 4 articles about this topic and have been emailing you and education providers and instructors, license holders as well, that were previously licensed information about this change. So one thing I want you guys to all keep in mind is make sure that you're signing up for our newsletter or email messaging services. When you go to our homepage, there'll be an image, like a slider banner that slides up on the right-hand corner of your page. Go ahead, put in your email address and click that you want to get education information. And that way, then you'll make sure that you're up to date on all those topics. But also we share that information again, also in our newsletter every month as well. So make sure that you're reading that information. Jen and her team had been communicating since June, I think.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, I love this tool. I love the Gov Delivery Notice and the mechanism for communicating information. So I use it a lot for education messages. So if you aren't on there, then definitely please sign up for that.
Yeah, it's kind of key in making sure that specifically for providers to get all the information they need, and use that as a great tool. So also the website itself has been updated. So that the instructor, how to become an instructor, all of that information has been taken down from our website, but they've also updated the education provider information to include lots of links to other resources like the qualification list, the lists of education, previously approved instructors, that kind of stuff. So they've although the information on the website has changed or moved, they've tried to still provide as much information as possible throughout those pages.
Right.
And I think it's important that we kind of just take a moment to give you guys some high fives on making sure that you guys get credit, because that was a big challenge to make sure that all of that information stayed clear and concise on the website and not confusing. So again, if you guys have comments or concerns about what's on the website, can't find something, 2 things to keep in mind is, one, you can always email Jen. I'm sure many of you have Jen's email address, but if you don't, I'm sure she'd be happy to share it with us right now. But then also post your comments or questions in the comment section today, and we'll make sure that I link to any information you need, even live right now while we're talking. But we also use these sessions as an opportunity to kind of talk to our license holders and hear feedback about what else we need to be talking about. So if we see that there's a gap or a misunderstanding or something that needs to even just a quick FAQ on, we will respond to that by publishing it on the website and making sure that you have that as a resource. So just keep that in mind as we're going through today. Jen,
that's great information.
Yeah. Yep. Did you want to give your email address out? I didn't want to overstep and go ahead and share that, but I think most people probably have it.
I know a lot of you already have it, but it's easy enough. It's my first name dot last name, so Jennifer, JENNIFER .Wheeler, WHEELER @Trec, TREC .Texas, TEXAS spelled out .gov, GOV.
Yeah. So Jen and her team are really responsive to questions. They have a great team now built out that are extraordinarily knowledgeable in these topics. So send your questions to them as well. I mean, you're always welcome to send them to me, but I will probably just send it to Jen and ask her. So cut out the middleman here. So I'm going to go ahead back to the questions here, just so that we can keep making sure we're getting everyone covered. Will Trek still, okay, hold on, we answered that one. In addition to the Legal 1 and 2 instructor training, is the separate general instructor class that was called Train the Trainer still required, I think?
So I think, Erin, you're referring to the 8-hour adult education instructor training, which is no longer a requirement.
Right.
But the instructor trainings, for the specific courses is still a requirement.
Okay. So the Train the Trainer for those courses that are non-CE elective.
Non-elective,
courses, right. Those are still required. But that 8-hour adult education requirement is no longer in effect.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So I hope that answers your question. Is the college degree a 4-year degree, or is that any level? I think maybe Kristen's asking about like if you had an associate's degree.
So the degree is a minimum of a bachelor's level, and it's specific to real estate.
Okay. So
thank you for that question.
Yeah, that's a good clarification there. So Bill asks, will the passing grade for the training for legal 1 and 2 and broker responsibility still be 80%?
It will.
Yep, that doesn't change.
Doesn't change.
Yeah. Some of the links you posted in the chat are not working. Carol, I'll double check that. I'm thinking maybe it's this last PDF that loaded funny. So I'll make sure to double check that as Jen answers the next question. Are marketing material guidelines the same? Desiree would like to know.
Okay. So yeah, I think you talk the advertising requirements that we have for education providers. The only thing that's different is that you don't need to include an instructor license number on your advertisements. I would encourage you to include an instructor name. I think that's appropriate and important for students who are looking for courses to take. Might want to know who the instructor is going to be. But the only change is the removal of the license number from your advertisement.
Okay, so I'm just making sure that all the links are working. That first page that I just linked to, that's titled Instructor Qualifications for Providers, at the very bottom of that page, we have a resource link there. And a list of previously approved real estate and inspector instructors is also there. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at these links. Excuse me, I had the hiccups. That those two links there are, all of this information is linked in this one resource there. So if you can't find it later, that this page here, the instructor qualifications for providers page, is a great resource for y'all today. What is the process for getting a course in the SAE program? Ashley would like to know.
Oh, okay. So all of our qualifying courses, we have this distinction between pre-licensing and other elective qualifying courses. So those are what you're asking about when you're asking about SAE. So that's a qualifying course application, which the form is available on our website. And the form includes all of the materials that are needed to be submitted with the course application. There are some distinctions between classroom and distance education when you're preparing the application. But any number of courses could be used for SAE, such as real estate investments, what else? Real estate inspection for real estate license holders. Property management, marketing, those are some of the courses. So we have a total of 13 qualifying courses. 6 of them are mandatory pre-licensing, and the others are used for SAE.
So Ashley, I hope that answered your question. We're going to move on to Phyllis's question. Did I hear the instructors for qualifying classes must take the 8-hour adult learners class? This seems to be a frequent question.
It is a frequent question, and the answer, Phyllis, is no. There's no longer a requirement for qualifying instructors to take an 8-hour adult education instructor training course.
But just to clarify, they do still need to take the Train the Trainer.
If they want to teach Legal Update 1 and 2 or broker responsibility, yes.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Phyllis. Bill says, as a provider, we understand there will be occasional audits to ensure we are certifying instructors correctly. Do we know when these will start, and is there going to be a standard the auditor or reviewer will going to want to see, or each provider is on their own at making the decision in record keeping?
Okay. Yeah, I know we've been talking for a long time about this audit program that we're working toward launching, and we're really excited about it. We're still a little bit away, but the tools that we will use in an audit, we will definitely share with our education providers so they know what to expect.
It's not going to be a clandestine investigation where we surprise somebody with a list of things that we're all of a sudden coming up with.
Right. And that's not the intent either. The intent is not to find what's going wrong. It's to make recommendations for things that need improvement, or, give you some direction if we notice that, you're not complying with something. Well, how can we help you get into compliance?
Yeah. I think a lot of the times when I talk with license holders, they always seem to have the impression that we're out to like find something wrong with what they're doing. And I think the underlying misconception there is we're actually here to make sure that they are doing their job well, and our job is to make sure that consumers are protected. And So in that line, no, we are not going to go out and sneakily look at somebody or
No,
like,
no.
I once was told, well, I know you guys have people out in the field and they like sign up for stuff and test us on whether or not we're doing something right. And I was like, we actually have none of that. I'm surprised that rumor is out there. So no, like an audit process that we would launch, there would be like a formal layout of how we would do it. And
we'll be talking to everybody as we work toward developing the audit program.
But for now, there is not one established. So right now it's just about giving time to our providers to kind of establish their procedures, establish their guidelines, keep their records. Is there a limit as to how far back they have to hold those records? How long they have to keep all of that information?
Well, generally we have a record retention requirement of 4 years.
So providers for, we might not be doing audits for another year, but that doesn't mean that you can get rid of the information until we start doing audits. Keep that information starting as of September 1, how you are qualifying your instructors, because we can ask for back to 4 years of information.
Well, and also I would encourage you to take a look at the qualifying course instructor guidelines that we've posted.
Yeah.
Because you are certainly more than welcome to use that. You don't have to, but document. If you want to look at somebody and you want to screen them to teach specific courses, just keep your documents in order. And again, those things could be a resume and references and any historical information on how the individual has been involved in real estate.
So would I be overstepping and saying that it's more looking at like a provider looking at hiring an employee or a contractor, and how would you normally do that? So you would check their references, you would ask for a resume, you would investigate their qualifications, and you would make sure that they're qualified to do the job that you're hiring them to do, right?
It's a great summary, Christine. Yes, thank you.
So you want to look at it that way, that although we used to have a license where we had instructors that were previously approved and you could just kind of pick from that list, or we were the verifiers of the background information. Now it's kind of providers need to make sure that when they're hiring somebody, they're hiring the qualified person to do so.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, kind of circling back to the beginning, we just want to make sure that we provide you with as many tools and resources as we can.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to some more questions. We've got a lot. I am currently licensed as a CE instructor under one provider, but want to create my own CE classes. Would I apply as a provider qualifying education instructor?
Okay, so let me look at that again. All right, so you are currently licensed as a CE instructor. Okay, so you're teaching CE elective courses and you teach them for a particular provider.
Mm-hmm.
And if I understand, you would like to write courses and teach those on your own, in which case you would need to become a CE provider. If you wanted to be the one actually. So there's a distinction between the instructor and the provider.
Yeah.
A provider was the one who submits courses to us for approval. An instructor can't do that. So if you want to submit courses to us for approval, then you would need to become approved as a CE provider.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that answers the question.
All right, Stephanie, let us know if that's okay. Can a currently approved elective CE class be approved for SAE elective course?
No.
That was quick.
I know. It's also a good question, but no, our SAE courses are those courses that I mentioned. They're specific courses that are identified by the statute and the commission rules.
Yeah.
So they need to satisfy specific content requirements to be considered an SAE course. And they also have to be a minimum of 30 hours.
Yeah, and most CE courses are nowhere near 30.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so Mickey says, I was approved to teach core property management course, and it is not on the list. Is there an opportunity to amend the list?
Mickey, if I understand you, are you saying that
the list that we're showing
that
on the website?
You're looking at the list and you're not seeing that you were approved to teach that course? Because if that's the case, I can certainly look at that and make sure that it's
Mickey, I would say reach out to Jen directly and just ask the question directly to her. and I'm sure she would be happy to look into it.
Absolutely.
Are audits going to be going to apply to all providers, or are you focusing primarily on qualifying and non-elective providers?
They're going to be for both. We may start with CE and then move to qualifying.
Yeah.
But again, as we get closer, we'll be sharing more of that information. Yeah. I would say hopefully we'll have something on the ground within about 6 months.
Okay.
So you all have some time.
That was my next question. What is our timeline for starting to roll out that information?
Right.
6 months or so?
6 months or so.
Okay, that's great. So I would say definitely make sure you're signed up for her education emails by then so that you know when that's what those changes are going to look like. Billy says, do inspector division instructors follow the exact guidelines as a real estate class instructors?
Pretty much, yes. So the rule revision doesn't distinguish between inspector and real estate. Okay, so the pre-licensing qualifications are the same. However, when you start talking about the SOP review course and the legal and ethics course, and those have a little bit different requirements because we also add the element of 200. Like the individual has to have, or one option is that they could have had 200 inspections under their belts.
Right.
You know, so it kind of alters just a little bit to that extent. But the teaching and training experience is still a requirement for those.
So I would say, Garen, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If you have a question specifically about your experience and how that applies in this case, maybe reach out to us and we'll help you kind of filter through that and digest that on your specific example. And then Stephanie, so to clarify, Nicole says, if we teach non-elective CE only, we do not have to take the training course. I am also the provider, she says.
Okay, so if you teach non-elective CE, that is legal update 1 and 2 and broker responsibility, you are required to take the train the trainer for those courses and pass the exam.
And that's the A&M train the trainer.
Right.
Every 2 years, they are still required to do all of that.
Right. However, if you teach only elective CE, so that could be, 3 hours in contracts, 2 hours, any multitude of topics.
Using social media for your business.
Using social media, great example. Mm-hmm. You do not have to take a train the trainer to teach CE elective courses.
It's only the non-elective.
It's only the non-elective.
So, Nicole, just to make sure we're clear when we answer your question, when you teach a non-elective CE course, you do need to take the train the trainer courses still every 2 years, as you previously have had to do to teach those courses.
Right.
And just like Jen kind of covered before, but just in case some new people are on, we will be doing the same process where when you register for the course and you take the course, A&M will be letting us know that you've taken the course, and we will be sending you not a certificate or a license, but an approval letter that says that, yep, we see you took the class, you're good.
Right.
And so let's move on to Bill. He says, can I develop my own instructor's application form, or can I still use the Trek and charge $150? Oh, as a provider, he's asking, like, can a provider develop their own instructor application?
If you want to develop an application, you can, but our application forms are all promulgated and we've already pulled them from the website. Yeah. So it would not be appropriate to use a form if you happen to have an old copy.
Yeah.
But
it might be a good start as a guideline of things that you might want to ask, but no, don't use that form.
Right. Don't use our form, and we don't determine what you charge to employ an instructor.
Yeah. So if you want to charge a fee for people to apply to be an instructor with you, that's up to them.
That's your business practice, but will not go regulated by Trek.
Yeah. And I think it's important to just comment that anytime that like a form or anything is promulgated by us, you as a provider cannot use our information or our logo and imply that you are working on behalf of us or approving something on behalf of us. You don't want to, so that's where we're saying, yeah, you probably don't want to use that form because it could get you into some muddy water where you're maybe implying that you're doing this on behalf of Trek, or Trek requires this still. We don't want you to get into those muddy waters. So yes, you can have an application form and charge if you'd like to, but we don't have jurisdiction over that.
Right.
Okay. Follow up. How do we get on the list of approved instructor trainers you have on the online at Trek? I see no application form. So this guy wants to basically be one of the train the trainer people, I think. Instructor trainer.
Well, no, I think that Billy might be asking how to get on the list of approved instructors that we've recently posted.
Okay.
In which case, that, like I said, we're no longer receiving or accepting applications to become instructors. There are no more additions to be made to that list. If you want to register for the trainer for non-elective courses, again, I just want to reiterate, non-elective CE courses are Legal Update 1 and 2 and Broker Responsibility. And if you want to teach those courses, then you would need to make sure that you satisfy the minimum requirements to teach basic qualifying courses, and you need to register with the Real Estate Center at Texas A&M to take the Train the Trainer and schedule that for this fall.
So the next question we had was from Pam, who says, where do I take the Train the Trainer? I think the quick answer here is we don't provide the Train the Trainer courses. It's actually done through the Texas A&M Real Estate Center.
Right.
And you would register for the courses through them. They provide them every 2 years as the courses change. And I believe they advertise them on their website and how to register for them.
They're all on their website already. All the fall courses, Train the Trainers, are scheduled.
Yeah,
and so people can start registering now.
They hire staff to do the training, right? So usually the people that are doing teaching the Train the Trainer, they're hired through A&M.
They're hired through A&M, but the trainers, the instructor trainers, will be Carrie Lewis and Avis Wukash.
There you go. So to be the instructor trainers for those trainer classes are already hired and are Carrie Lewis and Avis Wukash, who, in case you didn't know, was our former chair, Avis Wukash, and our former general counsel, Carrie Lewis, are the two that are teaching those courses. So that might answer your question there. So looks like we are winding down on our questions. I'm going to give people a couple of more minutes to post any other thoughts or questions as I wrap up here. So basically, if we could wrap this up in a couple of sentences, how would you say that what's the takeaway from today? Brief.
All right. So the takeaway is we no longer license instructors. There are still standards in place in commission rules for the qualifications for instructors of different types.
It's not the Wild West.
There's a distinction, right? There's a distinction between qualifications for CE elective instructors versus CE non-elective instructors, and then qualifying instructors.
Right.
And so what's occurred is a shift from the Texas Real Estate Commission as a regulatory agency licensing these instructors to the responsibility falling upon the education providers. Again, we've tried to make available as many resources and tools as possible, and I'm definitely open to any feedback. If there's something you think would be helpful that we haven't done, how can we do that? Because we do recognize that this is a big change, and we want to be able to help make this transition as smooth as possible.
So, and then, wait, we had one more question. Desiree says, when an instructor lists themselves as an instructor on materials, what is the proper title? Approved truck instructor?
No, we can't use that anymore.
That's that muddy water of implying that.
You're right.
Yeah,
muddy water.
You don't want to imply that we approved something that we didn't, unless I guess it'd be okay if you had a license that didn't expire through the next 2 years.
That's true. So if you do still have a license number and your expiration date hasn't passed, then
you could still say that.
You could use that.
But I would say in general, probably the best is to not use that and say just instructor or approved instructor by XYZ provider might be a great way to say that. Approved by Champions or approved by whomever.
Mm-hmm.
And, that way then you can kind of advertise that somebody has certified you're qualified to teach the course. That certification is just no longer coming from us. So that might help in that question, Desiree.
Sure.
Gail says, I think the confusion is coming from saying train the trainer for Legal 1 and 2 and broker responsibility, meaning the specific training for those courses. I think that is why you are getting so many questions about train the trainer. Gayla, I think so train the trainer is actually the name of the courses that they provide that's why we're calling it that, right? Like
it's the common language
yeah.
for that. And I use it because it's what most people are familiar with. But it may be helpful moving forward to just refer to it as Legal Update 1 and 2 instructor training, broker responsibility instructor training. That's it. That's a really great comment, Kayla, because it's something that I've seen over the years and has caused some confusion.
Yeah. Howard just wanted to ask this question. He said he lost his internet feed. Do you have to take the adult instructor training course more than once? We answered that already in that you don't have to take
the answer is no.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Howard. Glad you were able to rejoin. No, the requirement for instructors of qualifying courses to take an 8-hour adult education instructor training is no longer required.
Okay, Addie asks, as an elective approved instructor and on the list identified approved for some items, how do you increase that list? Is it again a provider's discretion based of courses on the person's background and knowledge? Okay, so you're saying you were approved for XYZ courses and
I think CE elective courses.
Yeah, and she wants to expand on that list. How do you get approved to do that? How expand on that course list?
Well, I think so, Addie. The list is actually, again, it's a static list. It's essentially closed once the rule changed, and we're no longer authorized to license instructors. We can't make any adjustments to that list. However, I would encourage you to just talk with the education provider that you work with and talk about the different areas of expertise that you have. And that way you can grow your areas, grow the areas that you're teaching.
Okay. And then Mindy says, I represent a company in Michigan looking into the possibility of becoming a CE provider in the state of Texas.
Great.
This would be for an elective course. Is the course application the only form I need to send in now? Or could you list the documents I will need to send to support this? And do classes need to be a certain time length, 1 hour or 2 hour?
So Mindy, the first thing you would need to do is become approved as a CE provider here in Texas. So that's the first element before you submit courses to us.
Yeah. And that process is actually documented pretty clearly on the website. If you go to the homepage and navigate to become licensed, under there will be education provider, and then you'll pick the type of provider you want to be.
CE provider. And those instructions are pretty clear. The application forms are available there. And then if you scroll a little bit down further on that page, you'll also see how to submit a course application to us.
Yeah. So
to answer your question about hours, CE courses have to be a minimum of 1 hour. And we require 50 minutes of instruction during that hour.
Right. So with a 10-minute break.
Right.
Yeah. So thanks, Deb. This is our job, is to answer questions. We're happy to do it. And I am a licensed CE instructor, but I am not on the list. I was issued my license a year ago, TJ says. So TJ, sorry for overstepping, but I would say reach out to our education department and Jen
Absolutely.
or education department in general, and they will kind of verify that and make sure that there's not something missing or there's something went awry with the list. And
happy to do that.
Yeah. Like I said, our education team here at Trek is amazing, and they are way more knowledgeable about this information than anyone that I have talked to outside of education. They're just incredible. They work really hard, and these lists and everything went through a lot of review process and thought process. So if there is something missing, I'm sure they want to know. Right. So go ahead and reach out to us directly, and they'll make sure they take care of that for you.
And Christine, before we go, kind of on that note, I just want to let everybody know that, we have really grown the education team here at Trek. We've got a lot of great people on board. And for those of you who are education providers or have questions related to education or instructors or courses or any of that, we have a dedicated team of education specialists ready to respond to our email address, which is education spelled out at trek.texas.gov. And then also a dedicated phone line at 512-936 3120. I had to think for a minute.
3120. 936 3120.
Okay. So definitely make use of those resources as well with your questions.
Yeah. And I again, I think sometimes license holders and in general tend to think that we are not available, or we're too busy to answer that. Reach out to us. Our number one job is to make sure that you guys are doing your job correctly. So we want to answer your questions, and we want to make sure you guys feel confident in going forward. We understand that this change, it's a big change. So keeping that in mind, I just want to thank all of you guys for taking time out of your morning to come and get more educated about this topic. That shows us that people are on the right track and doing their best to comply with this change. And I want to thank Jen again for spending this morning with us and talking with us. And if we get feedback that another session like this needs to happen, we are absolutely going to make it happen, that we can continue this kind of thing, specifically for education providers going forward. And as far as today goes, let me see there. I don't think there's, there's some more questions on the list. It does not show whether you are approved to teach legal 1 and 2. Okay. Bob says, I understand the sunset review, but why take one standard for a qualification, make it subjective to all providers? This is such an important topic. What was the incentive for this change?
Okay. Let me read that again.
So basically he's saying, I understand that sunset required this change, but he's saying, why would you make it subjective to a bunch of providers instead of making it a requirement by the commission? I think the answer is we really didn't have a choice.
We didn't
in that
have a
matter.
choice.
Yeah.
It was a directive.
So when Sunset Commission came in and said, we think this is what should happen, that's what we kind of had to do. And the commission, we being the commission, had to make that change.
Right.
Yeah. So whether or not we had an opinion on that was not a matter of a question. So I hope that helps you. And then I have like 1 more minute, and then I'm going to try to be a good steward of everyone's time. Will you have this on video? Yes. So keep in mind that this video, as soon as I end it, it'll be reposted on our Facebook page. But I also upload all of these videos to our YouTube channel as well. So if you have people that are not Facebook members, I will share it there, and they can also see it there. You can share it. You can use this in your classes. However you'd like to use this. It will be shareable in multiple avenues on social media. So make sure you check that back. And then thanks, Commissioner Leonard. We enjoy doing this for you guys. So,
and thank you all for the really great questions.
Yeah,
really.
There were some great
questions.
Thank
you for your time and the great questions.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, guys. We appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and end this morning. And thanks again for a great session. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.